Hey, what's up? So here we are. It's time to do a big recap of the entire Mass Effect 2023 in 7-day celebration and teaser reveals and all of that. Right off the top, I will say this wasn't really what I expected. I had been saying for a while that I was really expecting this in 7-day to play out a lot like 2022. I thought we'd get lots of like concept art and maybe a little teaser video. Instead, we didn't really get the concept art and that kind of stuff, but we did get a trailer. But, well, let's just jump into it. So first, I'm going to show the tweet. So here's here's what they kicked it all off with. We had a tweet from BioWare saying, "Grateful to all of our fans who make hashtag N7Day so special. Come celebrate hashtag Mass Effect with us," and then a link to the BioWare blog. I will say that I like this little N7Day 2023 graphic. I had made my own for a bunch of materials over the last couple weeks, or the last week or so, and I thought I nailed it, but they went even more simple. But that's fine, I like the blue. So from here, you click in and we go to the blog. And in here in the blog, it starts off fairly innocuous, nothing too crazy. I actually remember when the blog first came out, and I scrolled through it really quickly to see if there was anything crazy. And I remember scrolling through, and mind you, this image wasn't there when the blog got posted. You know, because last year we had new concept art and stuff, even hidden in these little tiles. Well, this is from the 2020 trailer. This is new, that they're doing new figures for Tali and for Rex, and they announced this Shepard figure right at the beginning, or right before the show dropped in the morning. But then I noticed, is like, wait, this is all the same stuff as last year. There's no concept art in here, and then we had the opening letter. So what this starts off with is a letter from Mike Gamble, who is the director and executive producer of this next Mass Effect game, which still is not titled. I would say the relevant paragraph in here, this is mostly just thanking the fans and talking about where we've been and where we're going. This middle one here, I think, is worth talking about, and it's kind of talking about the future and the game that they're working on. So it says that process, making this next game, is equal parts rewarding and challenging. We've asked ourselves many of the same questions you've asked over the years. What happened to everyone that you know and love in the games? Who really died? Who has kids with whom? What does a baby Volus sound like? What about all of the galaxies? The endings? What the heck is going on with our Asari scientist turned shadow broker? What about... Never mind, you get the idea. And of course, to those questions there are answers, but you'll have to wait to hear them. And anything we do say won't be easy to find, just like you've come to expect from our hashtag in 7-day teases. Especially in hindsight, this paragraph is still very interesting to me. It's why many of the theories and stuff that are going around, which we will briefly touch on, but I will go deeper into in other videos, it's all just so hard to take seriously at this point, or it's hard to be to get really stuck into any theory or anything, because there's suggestions throughout the day, and we'll talk about them here in a moment, that this game very well, and probably is at this point, based hundreds of years after the trilogy. And that's why all of these questions being posed here in this initial blog are interesting. Because when I read this initial blog, it gave me vibes of, they're gonna base this next game on these questions. Maybe not the Volus baby, but we're gonna find out what happened to the people that we love in this franchise. Who had kids with who, what happened to Liara, or what's going on with Liara. And specifically this last thing here, I mean, this is obviously them saying, what about Shepard? And they keep toying with the Shepard thing, and they do more as we go through. And that's very brave, that's very bold, because a large number of people want Shepard back. And I would argue that we're getting away from that as we go through this N7-day, and as we kind of think about what they may end up doing. But we'll see. What was notable about this is that if you scroll down, this first couple paragraphs didn't have anything, but people noticed extremely quickly, obviously, that there were a bunch of random zeros and ones throughout these paragraphs for all of the other content. So there's a few zeros there. There's another zero there. There's an extra one. And what people figured out fairly quickly is that it was a binary code, and when they translated it, it spelled out epsilon. What that led us to was a website when people realized if you went to Mass Effect on EA and went to epsilon, there was at the time, a 30-minute countdown. And what that counted down to was this relatively short, 5 to 6 second clip. And then what that led to was this one, which was another countdown for an hour, which led to another clip. And then it went to this one, which was a 2-hour countdown, and it led to the entirety of the trailer as far as we know at this point. No more has been released after this. So I'm going to look at that trailer now, and we're going to kind of look at all of these together. So that's interesting, right? This whole thing came together. There was a lot of excitement and stuff about, trying to guess what the next little bit was going to be as these were coming out. And I do think it's worth at least briefly mentioning here some of the text that we had here in after the timer was up. We got these screens, and I think there may be something interesting in here. I do plan on doing a separate deep dive into this trailer and into a subsequent poster that came out, and then diving into some theories with other videos, but we've got time to explore all of that stuff, so be patient with me. This will be a higher level outlook here. So here we have this access code epsilon, access code accepted, secondary encryption detected with a code, Andromeda distress signal detected, year sent redacted, audio transcript, although they should know by now not to underestimate human redacted. That's a pretty obvious reference to the 2022 N7-day little teaser trailer that had the encrypted audio, and from Liara that we deciphered and got this, garbled but decent little statement from Liara suggesting the humans are doing something that's going to make the Citadel mad. The second clip came with this one where it says access code Oculon 2819 Defiance, access code accepted, tertiary encryption detected, classified, review briefing materials on official Alliance comms channels. I don't know. We see an N7, pretty obviously an N7 in this trailer, talking about, reviewing briefing materials on Alliance comms channels. This is really kind of sending me down the path of maybe these N7s in the post-Reaper War universe or hundreds of years into the future are used more as like agents for the Alliance and their allies, rather than being like the super soldiers that Shepard was. But we don't know. And then the final one here came with access code accepted post Nebula, warning, security breach detected, contact systems alliance, Epsilon, Oculon, Nebula. So I don't know what this tells us. I think people have been assuming that this means that this N7 is like defying the Alliance or going against them. I don't. I think this is saying that someone's on to this N7 and that they need to contact their handler, but we'll see. A few of the interesting bits in this is this whole thing about and to me is the Andromeda distress signal detected, year sent redacted. So that first line tells you, oh crap, like is this all going to take place in a time frame where they could, the Milky Way could have received distress signals from Andromeda, which would set the game at least 600 years in the future, after the Mass Effect 3 endings. My issue with that is that it says redacted. And if it was as simple as, okay, we're confirming this is going to take place way later, then why do a redacted there? It just seems odd to me. Then you go to the second one, and it's 2819. Canonically, that's the date that the Andromeda mission arrived in Andromeda, or roughly the year. And, you know, that seems like it could have been here in this redacted spot, but it's not. I've seen people be like, well, maybe these are just random numbers. They're obviously not, right? But I do think it's interesting. People have really fallen into now the idea of, okay, well, the next game is going to be about Andromeda. It's going to be set in the future for sure. I would say it's likely at this point, but I wouldn't say that's a guarantee still. But we'll have to wait and see. When it comes to the trailer, we do have some, you know, interesting things here. We have a figure walking here, wearing a red trimmed kind of armor coat thing with these, you know, it's white and red, these boots. We see it appears to be a female figure of some kind. We see the iconic N7 arm sleeve and stripes, and then we see, you know, the N7 logo here. I believe we also see it right here, and then the second teaser did before we saw the head, and I think everyone was expecting and hoping to see, you know, Shepard, a new version of Shepard turn around here, but I predicted before this even came out that it was going to be a helmet, and it was a helmet. So we, in some capacity, don't know any more now than we did before. Before this final part of the trailer came out, everyone was positive this was Shepard, was FemShep. I think some people are still holding on to that, but I think with some of the suggestion that this game is taking place many years after the events of 3, I'm starting to assume that this is probably a new character, and it's going to be the female version of the character that you can make for the next game, and I assume there will be a male counterpart as well. We see the individual kind of look back towards the camera, turn away and walk away with their super cool N7 gun, to what appears to be, and it's kind of hard to see it in this, but this appears to be a ship. It may even be similar to the one that we've seen in previous teasers, and when you see it in motion, it looks like there's an open ramp here. I've seen people say like, oh, this looks like the Tempest and stuff like that. You know, slow your roll. It's, you know, it's hard to tell. And at the end here, it is notable that the Mass Effect logo here does not have the "Will Continue" branding, which it has had in the last couple years when they've done any kind of reveals. So after that trailer came out, obviously everyone was abuzz. Still people freaking out about, oh, is that Shepard? You know, oh, is that a new protagonist? Is that the antagonist? Is that the bad guy? All of those questions. And then they threw one more little bit of salt on the wound, depending on who you are, or a little sugar on top, if depending on your opinion on it. And they put out this essentially a promotional poster, including the character in that clip. And the most interesting part about this, at least so far, is well, one, seeing the new N7 gun is really cool, and that they're kind of sticking with some of the old design language of having the LEDs and stuff on the weapons, but it's the zoom in here. Again, I'm going to do a whole separate video just on this poster, so I won't go as deep as I would have, but there are some interesting things in here. The most interesting thing likely being right here in the middle, to the happiness or great sadness, depending on what you're hoping for from this next game. But we have what is certainly an Angaran right here, and a Geth in clothes. Again, I will go deeper into this in a separate video. We obviously have Hanar, we have Turians, We have Asari in here. We have, I think this here is a Solarian, a Volus, some Krogans back here. I think that's one of the subclasses or sub races of Solarians that I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but they're giant, like they're big brutes, and that's interesting. But yes, the Geth in clothes, which I've seen some people say, well, maybe that's a Quarian, and it's light reflecting off of their helmet, and they're still wearing the helmet. I mean, maybe, but it definitely has the Geth, like the light that is so iconic to them, and it seems, and it's right here, dead center, in the middle of the art. It just I find it hard to believe that isn't there very much on purpose, and that leads us down the path of, oh, okay, so are there? So there's Geth, which, as far as we know, we're only in the Milky Way. There's Angarans, which, as far as we know, we're only in Andromeda. So, and everything we've seen so far seems like it's been in the Milky Way, but there's been suggestions to Andromeda. And so, did Angarans come to the Milky Way? Did we send Geth to the Andromeda galaxy, and we're able to go between the galaxies now somehow, depending on the time frame of this game, which is still undetermined? Needless to say, it's led to a lot of confusion and disappointment and happiness, depending on who you are. And so now we jump back to Twitter, and that's where we'll spend the rest of this video, is on the various things people have said and pointed out and things so far. I'm sure we'll do a follow-up on this eventually as people find out more and look at more. So a big thing here was when they released the full trailer, Mike Gamble, again, the lead on the game, said, look closely and happy N7 day. In mind, and also note for later that he confirmed in this that this was an in-engine trailer. That doesn't mean as much as it used to. In-engine used to be like, that's what the graphics are going to look like. Nowadays, almost all, or at least a lot of cinematics are in-engine, where they're using the engine to do the cinematic instead of it being like a video that plays. It doesn't always reflect the quality of the game, but it is typically a good sign if a game looks good in a trailer like that. This was one that a lot of people are sticking to for either their hopium or copium, where he also tweeted out saying, hey, not everything is as it seems, which is very clever by him, because it essentially puts a question mark on anything. So everyone who's assuming that this is a game that takes place in the 2800s, 600 years after the events of the trilogy, well, for them, it's like, well, okay, well, maybe it's not what it seems. Maybe that's not the case. Or everyone who hopes that or thinks that this means that it's going to take place right after Mass Effect 3, well, not everything is as it seems. Everyone who thinks that N7 is Shepard, well, not everything is as it seems. Everyone who thinks it's not Shepard, not everything is. So it's one of those things where they've been very clever with their marketing and stuff with this, and basically not letting anyone be sure about anything. And until they actually release real info about the game and trailers, and we really start leading up to the release of the game, even if that's a few years away, it's probably a good method, because there's very few things at this point anyone could like, hey, you promised this was going to be in the game, because so far basically nothing has been promised. This one here was interesting. Someone responded to Mike saying, hope some of the designs from the original trilogy remain. The outfit and pistol in the clip look way too futuristic or cyberpunky for Mass Effect. And Gamble's response was, my art director is the very same one who designed the entire trilogy. Rest assured, we'll keep it real. So that's cool. So that means that we're definitely probably going to get some more modern influences and just in modern gaming and some of the aesthetics and stuff, but that the person making all of those art decisions is the same one who designed the original art for the first game. And so, while they may let it evolve, especially if the game takes place way after Mass Effect 3 in the trilogy, then, hopefully it's still going to be grounded in some capacity. This one, last night, got a lot of people going where Gamble tagged Parrish Lay, who's the development lead at BioWare, I believe specifically on the Mass Effect franchise. They're a former cinematic person from the trilogy. And Gamble says, they still haven't found the other part, the one I was afraid of them finding. Woo. So there's something we missed, and I assume have still missed, that they at least have not seen any of us notice at this point, which is kind of exciting and frustrating because obviously we want to know everything, to the point where I think he suggested that even in last year's 2022 little teaser, I think he suggested we haven't found everything about that, as well as the poster from 2021. And he even confirmed before in 7 Day this year that we're missing something even from the 2020 trailer. So take from that what you will. This was another confirmation by the franchise technical director on Mass Effect, saying that, yep, this is in-engine footage. I can't wait for you to see what the team is building. Again, that's not really the biggest news on Earth. Most cinematics and stuff nowadays are in-engine, but they aren't like actual gameplay. So, it's good to not conflate those two things too much. Ali Hillis, who's the voice of Liara, retweeted the video saying, well, this is interesting. Some people have suggested that the figure or the character in the N7 outfit in that trailer is Liara. I think that's just not a thing. I don't think they would take away her kind of iconic look or her unique look by having her wear N7 armor. I've seen people say, oh, it's like a tribute to Shepard or whatever. I just don't really, that wouldn't make much sense to me. It's also like a stolen valor thing. And I think even an Asari would realize that, wearing N7 armor wouldn't really make much sense for them. I'm sure she could find a tribute to Shepard in a different way. And then the final thing is, it's kind of interesting. Something that was pointed out was that some of these names refer to the stages of a galaxy forming. So if we look back at Epsilon, Oculon, and Post Nebula, that matches up with these stages of galaxies developing. So we have Epsilon being the first one, Oculon being the second, Nebula, and then Post Nebula being the third and fourth, and then 5 and 6, as far as we know, I believe not being mentioned, at least not yet. So that gives me some thought that maybe there is something left for them to reveal to us, but I think it's safe to say that we've probably gotten everything we're going to get for N7 Day this year. So my overall thoughts on this is this is interesting. It's not really what I want. Some of the things suggested are definitely not what I wanted. This combination of Andromeda and Milky Way, it's been suggested multiple times by Mike Gamble and hinted at. I was really hoping that integration would be a slower one. I was really hoping the next game would truly be a story of the post-Reaper War Milky Way, with intent of moving towards, exploring both galaxies and how they'll eventually connect together. But maybe it kind of starts to look like they want to do that a lot faster, and that maybe we're going to jump right into that. I think that's kind of a shame. I think that post-Reaper War era would have been really, really interesting to explore. Obviously, it would have given us that chance to play with Shepard one more time, to see all of our old crewmates and so on. But it seems like they're kind of suggesting that may not be the thing, which takes me back to that initial blog where they asked those questions that seems like they're only asking them because they're going to be answered. But now it makes me worry that, finding out what happened to our old crewmates is going to happen in like audio logs or memorials, other than the people who could still be alive, like maybe Rex, even though he was getting towards the end of his lifespan in the trilogy. But, Liara, Arya, even Grunt, and some other, characters that maybe could have had extended lifetimes due to their species or to their modifications. I'm trying not to get too upset or invested in anything. They've kept all of this stuff so vague, seemingly on purpose. And even if they do, and I've said this for a while, even if they do everything I don't want, I'll be fine with that as long as the game is good. I think that's a universal thing of, yes, obviously there are specific things I want from the next game. It looks like I may not get almost all of those, but if the game is still really good and compelling, we have good characters, some good callbacks, a good story, that's fine. A light reboot of the series is probably a good idea, even if it's not what I personally want. So that's what I have for this one. I do plan on doing some more deep dives and then some speculation and talk about theories and either debunking or, you know, kind of giving my praise to theories I run across over the next days and weeks and months. And we'll see if we can stretch all this stuff out for another year. This one may be a little tougher, but if you're in for that, please subscribe to the channel. If you like Mass Effect, please subscribe. I do plan on covering anything Mass Effect, whether it's rumors or leaks or speculation or news that may actually come out over the next year until the next N7 day. And I just cover other general gaming topics as well. So if that sounds good, subscribe to the channel. Like the video if you did. Leave a comment down below with your theories or your thoughts or whatever down below. You can find me as Bond Diesel all over the internet, including over on Twitch, where I multi-stream on there and here on YouTube a few times a month. And I also have 2 gaming podcasts, The Bonfire, which is a weekly news podcast, and the Mass Effect Hypecast, which is about Mass Effect specifically and mostly the next game. Obviously, a new episode of that is coming very soon, probably today, or at least within the next week. And that's kind of what I have for this one. So until next time.